It's the next level contractor podcast.
Yeah, I'm talking about Mountain Dews, baby.
Coming at you every Monday at 7 a.m. 30 minutes or less, no bullshit.
Eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
We're helping small businesses and construction companies be more profitable with better leads and better systems.
We'll do it live! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
And today I've got Greta Whittenberg from Creativ Endeavor on. How you doing, Greta?
Hi, I'm doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
And today we're talking about why now is the best time to push on your construction brand. So Greta, I know that you've done a lot of branding in your day. So I want to just give the people a little bit of an overview. We're going to talk about what it is, what does it do for you, when is the right time to do a logo refresh. Then we're going to talk a little bit about why brand helps in a downturn, what else is important, reputation and specialty, and then we'll just talk about anything else you want to talk about related to brand.
Works for me.
So what is branding?
Well, I think that you said it right, that branding is something that we really want to focus on, and it is different than just a logo. So let's figure out what that distinction is. So when we talk about brand, it's the customer's perception of your company in their mind. And so every time you have some kind of touch point with that customer, it's impacting your brand, essentially, basically how they think about you. And so that can be in many different formats, because touch points are everywhere associated with it. So it's your website, it's your social media pages, it's your video content, it's your brochures, and it's your logo. So as you can see, a logo is just a piece of your brand. It's a very important one because it's a symbol that kind of encompasses your brand and brings it all together. But it's important to remember that it is just a single piece. And I think it's important to remember that so we don't blow out of proportion what a logo is there for. But I guess why it matters when we're talking about logos and brands and why that even matters is that having an established brand makes so much more of an impact for your business than just having a single symbol for people to grab onto. And so when you really cater your brand around how you want people to perceive you, it's going to go a lot farther than just having a single logo.
That makes a lot of sense. So when it comes down to it, what does branding do for a company?
Well, the number one thing that you're trying to do is make sales easier. And I think that's a combined reason why any business would want a brand, because making sales easier just is something that we're all striving to do.
Yeah.
And I guess there's two paths that you can do to make sales easier. It's how many potential customers are coming your way and how many customers are actually going with you. And so basically how a brand helps is with that second part.
Yeah.
It's increasing the number of clients who actually move forward with you. So how does your brand do that? Well, one way is that it helps meet the expectations of your customers. So customers are looking for things from you, and that can be your credibility, or your experience, or your price point. And so if you have, if you're a high-end home remodeler, and your brand looks high-end, then you're able to meet that expectation of who are you looking to service, and is that me? So one way to get more people to move forward with you is to meet their expectations. Second way is by your brand being consistent. So if your website and your print materials and your shirts and your truck wraps and everything that you have looks scrapped together and they all look different, then people might perceive that the services that you offer and the products that you offer are also going to be scrapped together. So
and that's
having
often
that cohesive,
the case, right?
Yes,
we've all
true.
experienced that. You're looking for those little signals about the quality of a service or a product. And you've experienced that before, where you noticed, hey, this truck wrap, the logo is different than the email that I got. So I'm a little concerned now because you've experienced that before, where somebody wasn't as professional as you thought they should be, and it was related. It's not necessarily always the case, right? You could have bad branding and still be the most amazing service provider in the world. It's just one of those signals that we use. It's kind of like somebody's outfit. Do they have, something on that makes them look professional? You're just using these little hacks in your mind all the time. You judge people, is what you do.
Absolutely.
We have to judge people. And brand is how people judge companies.
So you're right. So sometimes it's not just an impression that someone might be scrapped together. Sometimes it actually does equate to they don't have their stuff together. So so if you do, then you should definitely push that, because it's not true for every company. So having that consistency is pretty high and a high priority. And I think the last thing I want to say on that is that the housing industry in general is a very aesthetic industry. People are hiring you because you're going to be making something look great for them. And if your presence doesn't look that great, then it kind of shows that you don't care as much about the aesthetic. And that's the main thing that you are impacting for them, an aesthetic of something in their house. And so you want to show that you care about the aesthetic, and that will translate to you care about how their product, their result, their remodel is going to turn out. Ideally, it's going to look awesome, and they're getting that hint from your brand right off the bat.
That's a great way to put it. When is the right time to do a logo refresh?
Well, that is a good question. I guess just to back up a little bit, your brand used to be just you. Like, if you think way back when someone would come into your store, like, you were your brand. How you interacted with that customer was exactly how they perceived you, because they're interacting with you. But now in such a digital era, we have so many things out there that are representing us and representing our brand. And like we talked about before, it's your website, it's your social media, it's your marketing materials. So I guess a few ways to know and signal when it's right to have a rebrand is when your logo doesn't match the quality of your price point or your services anymore. It might have at the beginning, but if those things change, then your logo should change to reflect that. And so if it's not, your brand is actually hurting you in a way, because it's not portraying the right message of what you do and who you serve. Another reason to see that you'd want to rebrand and change up your look is that you're looking to signify a change. So if there's a change in ownership or the services you offer or the quality, and you really want to get that out there and get that message to your consumers, a logo is a very eye-opening way to do that, because it's pretty obvious, and it can look very different compared to what you have. So just kind of being that introductory message and way to get that out to people, a logo. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you just lowered the quality of your service, you should make your logo just look like a shack. A ramshackle shack. You gotta decrease the quality of the logo if your services have recently just gone down. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone seeking to portray that they're decreasing the quality of their service.
Yeah, probably not a common thing. But it does push home the point just around, hey, if your current services are amazing, but your website looks like the equivalent of a shack, don't assume that people are going to know just by seeing your truck drive by that you're a high quality provider.
Absolutely. It's definitely something you want to get out there and not something that you want to hide. And so again, a logo is a good way to get that message out there. So a third reason why you would want to change up your look or rebrand would be because it just looks aesthetically outdated. And I think that when you have a brand that looks relevant, it shows that you are ready to work with the people of today's market. Like you understand their needs and where things are trending, and you are in on all of that, and they don't need to be worried that your services are going to be irrelevant or old-fashioned. And your logo can hint to that if it looks aesthetically modern of today.
Yeah, and I think more so than ever, like B2C companies, like people that serve just regular homeowners, more than ever need that. I think I see a lot of commercial construction companies that have kind of weird, outdated logos, but it doesn't seem to matter as much to them or something. Because there's some big companies that have horrible logos. It's actually sad, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know why, but it seems like people that sell directly to consumers, not to other companies, seem to have better logos. Probably just because of the amount of times people have to see it. You know, those companies have really good logos. Think about the like soda companies of the world have really good logos. Did you know that Pepsi paid $2 million to have their logo tilted on its side? It's a crazy story.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and then they had a like a stack of papers like 200 pages long for like their explanation, the branding company. So I don't know. I guess I would be a little bit curious just from your point of view. Like, okay, so there's one extreme, right? Ridiculous, really expensive, crazy branding company that it's just too much money and people are sometimes stupid and they spent it, whatever. They're just throwing away money. It was Pepsi. And then on the other hand, you have people that go to like these websites where you just do like a contest and there's like they're throwing out all these logos and they don't really get to know you, but they throw out a lot of logos. So the logo tends to be a little less meaningful and like really built with you. Definitely not artisanal, but they're super cheap. So like where should people be thinking like kind of in between those ranges? Like go throw it on a contest website for dirt cheap, or you know, obviously most of the companies that we're talking to here, small business, mid-sized business, growth-oriented companies, are not going to spend $2 million. So what should people be looking for in a quality service provider, and why shouldn't they use the dirt cheap contest websites?
So I guess my response to that is that generally, the more money you put into a rebrand and a logo process, usually what you're paying for is the research. How much research do you want someone to collect about your company, about your competitors, about the market, about where things are going? So I don't want to say that $2 million is anywhere near as much research as you need for a smaller company with a smaller target market to spend, because I don't think that's very realistic. But let's look at the size of Pepsi. It is massive. It is a international company looking to reach like the world, and so
maybe
there's more research that goes into it.
Crazy.
It may be, right? But then if we go to the flip side, through things like Fiverr or 99 Designs, again, the people perceive that as not necessarily being a bad thing, because you still end up with artwork. You still end up with something called a logo. The main difference between that is that I think the majority of the research just comes from your name and then what comes to mind. Yeah. And if, you know, when you invest only a small amount of money. Yeah. And I think that the best middle ground is finding that price point where they're still going to be looking into who you are, because they're looking to show that authenticity. They're looking into your competitors so that they can see what the market is showing, but also differentiate you from that. And they're looking at your target market so you can directly communicate to those people. Yep. So finding that middle ground with that amount of research, but obviously if you're not an international company, you don't need, you know, astronomical research in that area. That middle ground is your sweet spot. Yeah, I think that's good. And usually I don't think that as much comes from the contest area or the $5 logos, because it just doesn't enable that much research to go into something like that. So
that makes sense. And you might end up with something that looks like 50 other logos out there, and hey, because basically I think a lot of times those people are like using like a set of things that already existed to make your thing. So you're going to end up with something that looks exactly like some other company over in Wisconsin, and that's not good. You don't want to have the same logo. There's obviously a benefit to having a somewhat unique symbol that represents your company. Now,
absolutely. But at the same point, hang on, I have just one more point.
Yes, please.
I mean, while Pepsi can afford to spend $2 million on branding,
Yeah.
I know that there are some people who like if you say a price point that's above $100, that's a lot of money for them because they're just starting out, right?
Yep.
And it might not apply to as many businesses that we're interacting with because they're more the mid-size, they're already established, all that jazz.
Yep.
But if you are just starting out, I really don't want to knock some of those resources out there because sometimes you just kind of need a symbol to rally around until you can invest the money to have thought behind it. You know what I mean?
There's something to be said about being scrappy in a good way towards
Right.
those things. And yeah, I say that when it's an individual, like when my friend was starting his house painting company or whatever, like, hey, however you can get this done, get it done. It's not
Right?
maybe appropriate to engage a professional designer right now, like, you know, but maybe go on 99 Designs or something. You know what I mean? So there is an appropriate point, but then there's another point where you want confidence. You want the confidence to know that you did the right thing, that that your brand isn't like hitting you at the ankles, you know, because people see it and see a logo that looks like the guy was, you know, in a different state. So I want to touch before we get done with this.
It's definitely a balance.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to say a couple things about thriving in a downturn because I know that there's a lot of concern right now. I believe that we're not going to be, you know, who knows? I have no idea. But I don't think that we're going to be inside for much more than a month from now or whatever, but we'll see, right? In an economic downturn, there are companies that get hit. And there's also opportunities that come up. And I think brand, so I have three things that that help a company thrive in a downturn. One is brand. You want your brand to be memorable and stick in people's minds. You also want to be top of mind. And frankly, like if you look at like Facebook ads and things like that, the cost per click is down 30 cents right now because people have drawn back their budget significantly because they're kind of protecting themselves. But if you're able to kind of, maybe it's good to at the beginning of something like this to kind of pull in a little bit, protect yourself. But then if you see opportunities, as those opportunities come out, then you have resources to go hard on those opportunities. I think that makes a lot of sense. Brand is a huge one. You can spend money to push on your brand, to build your brand, to get a proper logo, to push into that, to really get something solid, to reinvent yourself, whatever it happens to be. Two, I think reputation is huge. So
absolutely,
a lot of companies should be investing in their reputation right now. If they haven't got 10 plus 5-star reviews on Google, they should spend time and maybe even money figuring out how to get those. Like there are a lot of software options out there for getting more reviews. Roofers can use Pulse M. It's an amazing tool. It allows people to do text messages back and forth between the roofing company and the client. I just talked with a guy today from a company called Trust Mary, which is basically a really easy way to get video testimonials from your clients. So that's another awesome way to increase your reputation. Trustmary.com. It's actually originally a company from Finland, and the guy is over here now just trying to get it started. So he's giving out really good deals for the platform. It's an awesome small expense to increase your reputation. Video testimonials to me are like number one as an option to increase your perceived authority with your ideal customer. Because if they see somebody like them that enjoyed your services and they're just saying a few genuine words about it, how much more is that persuasive than anything you could ever say?
Being in a technological age. First, your reputation was just based on someone's interaction with you and what they think of you based on that. And now that we've got so many other touch points and you know things representing your company out there, your reputation is based on what other people have said about you more than ever before.
Absolutely.
And so having those reviews, and especially those video reviews, which I can imagine would be a lot harder to like fake or buy. Like, I could just see the genuine nature of those.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that would be astronomically helpful. So that's awesome. Thanks for letting me know about that.
Yeah, it's a very cool tool. I just got a tour of it today. So,
Cool.
and then
Check that out.
third, I just want to say specialty. And these are things that are cheap and free, or not free all the time if you're doing an amazing logo, but pushing on reviews can be very cheap. Pushing on
Yes.
little video testimonials with their clients doesn't have to be crazy expensive. And then third, with specialty, hey, where have your best projects been? Who have they been with? Who do you like the most? How can you tighten up your message around those people? Because essentially specialty is yes, it takes a while to kind of niche down, and you don't want to do that quick all the time. Like, you definitely let
Right.
that kind of come naturally, but then as you see there's opportunity here, go into it and push towards those ideal customers, because then your message is tight. Then your message isn't like, I just remember my old marketing agency that I worked for that was just like, do you want more leads or donations or sales for your product or service, or you know what I mean, like, or nonprofit? It's like, how many things can you say, and then it's not very tight at all, and then you're sitting out here, your message isn't resonating with anyone because they don't know if it's for them. They need to know if it's
Absolutely.
for them. And if you have a specialty, both on the product or both on the service you're offering and in who you're talking to, you're just much more likely to resonate with them. And it get scary a little bit because you're cutting out things.
A little bit.
I remember when I said I'm not going to do e-commerce, I scared myself because I'm like, do I really want to turn down these leads that are coming in? Yes, it's okay, because then you can refer those out to somebody. That person's going to refer business to you. We got to stop pretending like, especially in an economic downturn, we got to stop pretending like we're really all that separate. I want to refer business to you. I want to make sure that you survive. I want to survive. I want these other people around me to survive. Frankly, I want even my competitors to survive. That, these other agencies, I want them to survive, because, if I wish ill on them during this time, I might get hit by the same bus that they do. So I wish.
Well, and it makes for a healthy market too, I
Yeah,
think. Just
exactly.
Having a variety of options kind of all pushes us to keep getting better and improving.
Exactly.
If there was only one of us here, like, I don't know where that push would come from.
Yeah, and I want to be part of that group too. And I like that. You always see restaurants kind of like cluster up too, and it's good for the area. And
Right.
yeah, I just think that specialty is a huge thing to both increase the quality of your messaging, but also increase the amount of referrals that you get. Because when you say you do marketing for construction companies, it just makes it way easier for somebody to refer business to you, and that's what a specialty does. If you say you do it for small businesses, I mean, to be honest, no one cares. And that's
Right.
true. Like when you have this loose specialty, it's just gray noise in somebody's head when you talk to them. But when you have a specialty, it's tight. I know who to refer you to when I talk to a construction company. And you want to keep that
Exactly,
niche
yes.
loose enough, but tight enough. Yeah.
Right. If you mention that you're working with construction companies, that's actually going to bring a picture to someone's mind of a construction company.
Yeah.
Like, it actually makes it a lot more real and tangible
Yeah.
to grab onto versus just saying small business owners, because there's no image that goes
Yeah.
along with that for people to grab onto. So yes, being
Exactly.
specific means that you're actually going to get something attached to that versus just more of a blank slate, I guess.
100%. So my suggestion during this time is I believe it is good to trim back unnecessary expenses, but then when you see surges in the market, when you see opportunities to push into digital marketing, to push into these opportunities where you see when others take a break, because it is true, you'd kind of ask, hey, why do you do those LinkedIn videos? Why do you do some of this? I just do it pure attention. I want as much attention for our company as possible. And attention is really scarce these days. it's scarce. So if you can get some attention, especially for 30 cents less on the dollar a click, it might be the right time to push into some of those digital marketing things that you've been slacking on.
Absolutely.
So, Greta, how can people find you online?
Well, you can go to my website, which is creativendeavor.com. There's only one E between creative and endeavor. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, both under Creative Endeavor as well as Greta Whittenberg, my personal page.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. This is the Next Level Contractor Podcast, coming at you every Monday, 7 a.m. with no bullshit. Very minimal bullshit. And hookagency.com, Hook Agency all over social. And talk to you next week. Bye.